Math's president assured Abhay that he would introduce him to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. At home, Abhay discussed his initiation plans with his wife. She had no objection, but she did not want to take initiation herself. They were already worshipping the deity at home and offering their food to the deity. They believed in God and were living peacefully. But for Abhay, that was not enough. Although he would not force his wife, he knew that he must be initiated by a pure devotee. Avoiding sinful life, living piously, these things were necessary and good, but in themselves, they did not constitute spiritual life and could not satisfy the yearning of the soul. Life's ultimate goal and the absolute necessity of the self was love of Krishna. That love of Krishna his father had already inculcated within him, and now he had to take the next step. His father would have been pleased to see him do it. What he had learned from his father was now being solidified by someone capable of guiding all the fallen souls of the world to transcendental love of God. Abhay knew he should go forward and take complete shelter in the instructions of his spiritual master and the scriptures enjoin. He who is desirous of knowing the absolute truth must take shelter of a spiritual master who is in disciplic succession and who is fixed in Krishna consciousness. Even Lord Chaitanya, who was Krishna himself, had accepted a spiritual master, and only after initiation did he manifest the full symptoms of ecstatic love of Krishna while chanting the holy name. As for the ritual initiation he had received at age 12 from a family priest, Abhay had never taken it very seriously. It had been a religious formality, but a guru was not a mere officiating ritualistic priest. So Abhay had rejected the idea that he already had a guru. He had never received instructions from him in bhakti, and his family guru had not linked him through disciplic succession with Krishna. But by taking initiation from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he would be linked with Krishna. Bhakti Siddhanta, son of Bhaktivinod Thakur and disciple of God Kishore Das Babaji, was the guru in the 12th disciplic generation from Lord Chaitanya. He was the foremost Vedic scholar of the age, the expert Vaishnava who could guide one back to Godhead. He was empowered by his predecessors to work for the highest welfare by giving everyone Krishna consciousness, the remedy for all sufferings. Abhay felt that he had already accepted Srila Bhakti Siddhanta as his spiritual master, and that from their very first meeting, he had already received his orders. Now, if Srila Bhakti Siddhanta would accept him as his disciple, the relationship would be confirmed. He was coming so soon after Abhay had seen and heard him in Vrindavan. That was how Krishna acted through his representative. It was as if his spiritual master, in coming to where Abhay and his family and business, was coming to draw him further into spiritual life. Without Abhay having attempted to bring it about, his relationship with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta was deepening. Now Srila Bhakti Siddhanta was coming to him as if by a higher arrangement. On the day of the ceremony, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati met with his disciples at the Allahabad Gauriya Math on South Malakka Street. While he was speaking Hari Katha and taking questions, Atulananda Brahmachari took the opportunity to present several devotees, Abhay amongst them, as candidates for initiation. The Allahabad devotees were proud of Mr. De, who regularly attended the mat in the evening and led bhajans, listened to the teachings and spoke them himself, and often brought respectable guests. He had contributed money and had induced his business colleagues also to do so. With folded palms, Abhay looked up humbly at his spiritual master. He and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta were now face to face. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta recognized him and was visibly pleased to see him. He already knew him. Yes, he said, exchanging looks with Abhay. He likes to hear. He does not go away. I have marked him. I will accept him as my disciple. As the moment and the words became impressed into his being, Abhay was in ecstasy. Atulananda was pleasantly surprised that his Gurudev was already in approval of Mr. De. Other disciples in the room were also pleased to witness Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's immediate acceptance of Mr. De as a good listener. Some of them wondered when or where Srila Bhakti Siddhanta had arrived at such an estimation of the young pharmacist. At the initiation, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was seated on a Vyasasana, and the room was filled with guests and members of the Gauriya Math. Those to be initiated sat around a small mound of earth, where one of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's sannyasis prepared a fire and offered grains and fruits into the flames, while everyone chanted mantras for purification. Abhay's sister and brother were present, but not his wife. Abhay basked in the presence of his Gurudev. Yes, he likes to hear. The words of his spiritual master and his glance of recognition had remained with Abhay. Abhay would continue pleasing his spiritual master by hearing well. Then he thought, I will be able to speak well. The Vedic literature described 9 processes of devotional service, the first of which was Shravanam, hearing about Krishna. Then came Kirtanam, chanting about the glorifying him. By sitting patiently and hearing at Koshi, he had pleased Krishna's representative. And when Krishna's representative was pleased, Krishna was pleased. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had not praised him for donating money to the math and hadn't advised him to forsake his family and business and travel with him, nor had he asked Abhay to perform great austerities like the yogis who mortify their bodies with fasts and difficult vows. But he likes to hear. He had said, I have marked him. Abhay thought about it and again listened carefully as a spiritual master conducted the initiation. Thank you so much. We'll stop here and we'll listen about the glorification of Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur today. So thank you.
Hare Krishna, everyone. I'd like to welcome His Grace Suhrit Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, thank you for taking time out to give your association. Now we'll hear the glories of the 7th Goswami, Bhaktivinod Thakur. Prabhu, all yours. Hare Krishna.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Mahavishnu Goswami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinod. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. We had a very, very nice class by Rumapad Maharaj this morning. And I would like to thank you all for joining in today in discussing and glorifying Bhaktivinod Thakur together. And a special thank you to Nandaraj Prabhu, Vilamangal Prabhu, Radhesham Mataji, Kadam Kanan Prabhu, and all the other wonderful South Auckland devotees for putting this together and keeping us engrossed in Krishna Katha for almost a month now. And hopefully this will continue. So thank you very much. Before we start, can I request everybody to put their cameras on, but mics on mute, please? It's just nice to see people around. Yeah. So today is a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful auspicious day of Bhaktivinod Thakur's appearance in this world. And before we start, we would like to offer him his pranam mantra. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Nuga Varayate. Namo Bhaktivinodaya So we offer our obeisances to Bhaktivinod Thakur, who is Satchidananda Namine. He's known as Satchidananda. He was given that he was known as by that name. And he is the embodiment, Gaura Shakti Swarupaya. He's a Swarup. Swarupa for Gaura Shakti. He has been empowered by none other than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being his eternal associate. And Rupanuga Varayate. He is the follower, a sincere follower of the Goswamis, especially Rupa Goswami, Rupanugas. So as followers or being in this parampara, we are Rupanugas and we are followers of Bhaktivinod Thakur and Srila Prabhupada. So why do we need to really know so much? There's so many people in our parampara. What is the need to know more about one Acharya? There's so many. So apart from the fact that we all need to know our family lineage, right? I mean, wouldn't you like to know your grandfather and a bit about your great-grandfather and your great-great-grandfather if you find that information somewhere? Would you not like to know? Of course, we'd like to know. So similarly, we come from a very glorious parampara, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So we should know about Brahma, we should know about Madhvacharya, we should know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all, as much as possible, of all the acharyas in this disciplic succession. What to speak about this empowered and wonderful acharya? It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 29th chapter, 10th verse. It says, Deshan punyan ashrayete madbhaktai sadhubhi shritam devasura manusyeshu madbhakta charitam cha. So it is said that one should take shelter. Desha punya ashrayate. Ashrayate means one should take shelter of Desha Punyam. Punyam means holy place. So one should take shelter of a holy place. How? Mad Bhaktai Sadhubhi Shritam. Where my devotees reside. And they should be guided by exemplary acts of the devotees. Mad Bhaktai Sadhubhi Shritam. So my devotees, sadhus, who are in the holy places, in fact, wherever the devotees are, the holy places automatically exist over there. So wherever these people are there, we should be guided by their exemplary acts. So Bhagavatam says we have to be guided. The key thing is to be guided. So if we do not know, Hare Krishna, somebody's mic is on. Can you please put it on mute? Thank you. So to be guided by the Acharya, we need to know about this Acharya. So similarly, we have exemplary Acharya in Srila Prabhupada and before him in Bhaktivinod Thakur. In fact, all of us, all the followers of Srila Prabhupada, all of us, we worship Bhaktivinod Thakur every day in our altar. Is it not? We have the Guru Parampara. And as soon as we have got Guru Parampara, we have got our security, we have got our shelter, and we receive the mercy of the entire Parampara. And one of the prominent person, in fact, perhaps the middle picture, I mean, we all know who this is, but is Bhaktivinod Thakur. So we need to know more about him. We need to know more about his activities. And we need to know how he has given instructions so that we can make progress in our own spiritual path. There is a nice verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 22, 49, that says, Sadhu Sange Krishna Bhakte Shraddha Jodi Hoy, Bhakti Phal Prem Hoy, Samsar Jaye Khoy. So he said, Sadhu Sangha Krishna Bhakte, that is by devotee association, one can awake their faith in devotional service to Krishna by being in association. And one's dormant love for Krishna, bhakti phal prem hoy, samsara joy hoy. So this Shraddha is aroused. And one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, and samsara joy hoy means the material conditioned existence for that particular devotee comes to an end. So by hearing these pastimes, we are not only purifying ourselves and progressing ourselves in a spiritual journey, we are also by default completely trying to detach ourselves from this material existence. It happens not with our endeavor, but it happens as a byproduct. So we all know that Bhaktivinod Thakur was an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya. And we also know that he was referred to very lovingly as the seventh Goswami, as you've heard Nanda Prabhu say. But who is it that gave him that title? Would you know? There is a very, very famous journalist called Shishir Kumar Ghosh, very, very well-known personality at that time. And he founded and owned a leading newspaper company in Bengali called Anandabajar Patrika. And he was the founder. And somehow or the other, he was very, very well connected, and he used to love and respect Bhaktivinod Thakur. And he said, I have not met the 6 Goswamis, but I consider you as the 7th Goswami. Bhaktivinod Thakur ki jai. So this personality, he was a wonderful devotee, of course, but he was a very visionary. He could not just see things around him. Devotees are visionaries. Like our Srila Prabhupada also, he was a visionary. When he went to US, he did not see the condition of the people at that point of time. But he had the vision to see the condition of those peoples, what will become of them when they start practicing bhakti. Can you imagine? And those people who were, almost all of them, we can say, were completely intoxicated and not following the 4 regulative principles. In fact, being proud not to follow. From that conditioned existence, Prabhupada transformed them into Goswamis. So he had the vision. So similarly, Bhaktivinod Thakur had the vision of how he can fulfill his mission in this whole context of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's descent. And apart from having vision, he was also a very, very fearless person. Why fearless? Because he had complete faith in the process of Krishna consciousness, complete faith in Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and their teachings. And because he was such a visionary and fearless, he was also dutiful, extremely diligent in following his day-to-day activities. As we all know, he's a Grihastha with 10 children, and he was a magistrate, and he wrote over almost 100 over books. He wrote 3 major books on songs, and we just sang a few songs before this in the evening today from Geetavali and Sharanagati. So you can imagine how he had time to do all these things. It is just, physically impossible. We can't even comprehend, but he had actually done it. And he is one person who had mastered the art of presenting Krishna conscious philosophy in an easy to understandable way to people at large, and to stir their thinking, to enlighten them, so that people can accept it nicely. So today I thought it's a wonderful opportunity. There are many pastimes of Bhaktivinod Thakur. We can just go on and on. We might have a full session to cover. But today, perhaps we'll try and focus on 3 major achievements of Bhaktivinod Thakur, And as an example, to understand what was this achievement, we might look at some small stories and examples as we go ahead. So he look at three major achievements. Before we look at the three major achievements, we'll perhaps just quickly touch upon three predictions that Bhaktivinod Thakur made. Sometimes we get very excited with some historical figure giving predictions in the future. Just before 2000, there was a person called Nostradamus, and everybody was excited. They said after 2000, Nostradamus has said everything will come to an end. Nothing happened. We are all alive and thriving. Right? But we get excited because somebody has said, and if one or two predictions come right, we become very excited. But our own acharyas, being visionaries, could see the future, could predict. So three of those predictions from Bhaktivinod Thakur. Remember them. First prediction. What did Bhaktivinod Thakur first predict? He basically said that all the theory, philosophy, and religions of this world, they can all become united through the scientific teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Krishna consciousness will be the universal religion for the soul. This was his prediction. So all the religions will come together under the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he saw it not as a sectarian religion, but he saw it as a religion that encompasses all other philosophies and religion into one. And that's why Prabhupada called this Krishna consciousness movement the real United Nations. But the prediction was done by Bhaktivinod Thakur. That's the first one. Second, and this is a prediction we all know. It is very popular. And he had predicted that there will be congregational chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna, of Lord Chaitanya, in every part of the world. And he said, Kobe hobe bolo shedin amar. He said that when will that day come when fortunate souls from England, from France, from Russia, from America will take up the kartal, will take up the mridanga, will come on the streets and chant the whole holy name of Lord Gauranga. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana. So he had predicted that. And due to our Srila Prabhupada, this is coming true. Not only Harinam on the streets, there is Jagannath Rath Yatra all over the world. So that was Bhaktivinod Thakur's second prediction. Third, he had predicted that a personality will appear to preach the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and move all over the world. And who was that personality? We all know. Our dear Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So those were the three predictions. Right? So now we'll just look at those three important achievements of Bhaktivinod Thakur. And we can, at least if we remember nothing else, we can remember this by the end of today's session. It's just three. And I'll give you the three straight away, and then we'll elaborate on each one of them. So the first achievement of Bhaktivinod Thakur is that he was a prolific writer and he published the maximum number of books that is physically impossible to be done by a single person. So his writings and his books specifically highlighting the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That was his first major achievement. And how did he do that, or how did he achieve that? Let's look at a little bit into his life. So as we know, he was born in Birnagar, which is in West Bengal, and he was born to very wealthy parents, both his mother and his father. And he was born when? 1838, 2nd of September. and his mother's side was mainly worshippers of Shakta, Durga. So as a young child, somehow or the other, Bhaktivinod Thakur had this inclination for studies. He used to write, he loved to write, read, he liked doing maths, unlike most of the kids today. So those were things that naturally came to him. He also learned astrology. And in the course of a few years, in fact, guess, when did Bhaktivinod Thakur write his first book? He wrote his first book when he turned 12. First book. It was not about Krishna consciousness. It was about Durga, his family deity in Ula, which is the place he comes from. But can you imagine somebody writing a book, okay, at the age of 12? I mean, Maharaj was saying today, we take so many months even to write a Vyasa Puja offering. The children, you tell them to write an essay, parents have to sit with them for months, and then maybe some essays come out, And this person at the age of 12 wrote a book that spoke volumes of what is going to come. And he was somebody who mastered 6 languages. So he knew English, he knew Bengali, he knew Odia, he knew Persian, he knew Urdu, and he also knew, obviously, Sanskrit. And he knew them very well. He could actually read, write, converse in these languages, not just a few words here and there. We might hear a few words here and there, and then we think, oh, I know a little bit of that language. No, he was very conversant with that. And he somehow or the other, from the very beginning, had an inclination for religious programs. Like we all have in our childhood, we have certain inclinations based on many factors. For us, of course, past life, past conditioning. So he always, whenever there was recitation of Ramayana, Mahabharata, he used to like. And at one point, it is said that when he was at that particular age, he met a person called Vachaspati. And this person explained about some spiritual topics and matters to young Bhaktivinod Thakur. And at that time, Bhaktivinod Thakur had heard that there is a ghost somewhere where his friends used to go. There was a ghost, and young boys and even adults for that matter, when people get together and especially at night, you start talking about ghosts, and the eyes pop out and even adults do that. What to talk about children? So he naturally had that inquisitiveness to know. So this Vachaspati Mahasaya, he said that, see, he explained to him actually what is a ghost, like a person with a subtle body, no gross body, and how we understand from scriptures. But then he said something important. He said, you don't have to fear ghosts as long as you chant the holy name of Lord Ram. And somehow or the other, when somebody says that with such conviction, it somehow entered young Bhaktivinod Thakur's heart. And he knew that the holy name of the Lord is very important. So those are those impressions that came in his mind when he was small. And his own mama, maternal uncle, he was a big journalist, very well-known journalist. So he took Bhaktivinod Thakur under his wing, and under him he learned a lot of proofreading, writing, helping him with his work. And although he had a feeling attraction towards bhakti, although he didn't really follow it so much. And then later on, through Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, who a lot of people from Bengal would know, was a very, very well-known educationist. So Bhaktivinod Thakur studied under him and learned poetry. And he also attended English school. And under George Thompson, he learned oratory skills. He was an excellent speaker. In fact, he was so good that all the top societies, the organizations, like today we've got Lions Club and Rotary Club and all those big ones, this association, that association, they used to call him to hear him speak. So this is something that was the background. And in this background, he started searching. He went to different temples when he was in Orissa and he observed those temples. He started looking for scriptural manuscripts. And then he chanced upon the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But he could not, he didn't find it. He was aware of it, but he couldn't find it. And after a long time, he actually found it when he was posted as a deputy magistrate in Dinajpur. Dinajpur is also in Bengal. So in Dinajpur, there was a zamindar who was at that point of time a very well-known Vaishnava. He practiced it himself and he used to support and maintain a lot of Vaishnavas in his kingdom. So somehow or the other, coming in contact with him, first time Bhaktivinod Thakur could lay his hands on the Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And once he found that book, he just started studying it day and night. He couldn't leave it. And he was completely hooked, completely attracted to these teachings, completely attracted to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes we have this feeling. I know somebody who doesn't like or never liked reading. All that person read was some comics. But somehow or the other, when that person is in Auckland, was given the Prabhupada Leelamrita, before it used to be in 6 books, 6 different volumes. So he was given the first volume. And he said that, I don't read so much. You can just tell me about him. And the devotee who gave the book said, no, you read. It's okay. Take time. I don't need it back soon. You give it back to me, but take time. And you know what happened? This person took the book home. And at night, thought just before going to sleep, I'll open the book and just read a little bit and go to sleep. Maybe a few lines or maybe a page. And that person started opened the book, started reading, finished one page, went to the next page, and kept on, and kept on, and kept on, and kept on. And it was well past midnight before he could realize that he has read almost 1/4 of the book in one single night. And he couldn't keep the book down. He went to sleep, woke up early morning, and the first thing he did, of course, hopefully he's brushed his teeth, is to pick up the book and started reading. And believe it or not, that particular day, I think it was a weekend, that particular day, the whole day that person sat, finished the book and called the devotee and said, can you give me part 2? This is a person who doesn't like reading. He doesn't even read, even Hollywood or Bollywood stuff. He doesn't like reading. That person finished a book on Prabhupada's autobiography in one day. So similarly, we can find that Bhaktivinod Thakur was somehow or the other, he had that inclination. It might not have manifested. Just like Prabhupada, he was preparing a lifetime till the age of 69. He was preparing, and then he went to US. And then the next, a few years after that was a stupendous success. So similarly, Bhaktivinod Thakur had his initial years where he was searching, he was observing. But as soon as he chanced upon Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam, the consciousness of that whole desire to get into this mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just, came on its own. So it is at that point that he had this intense desire to search out because Chaitanya Charitamrita is about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he knew that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born in Navadvip. But at that point of time, nobody knew where where the actual Janamsthan was. So he took it upon him to make it his mission to find that place. And finding the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, finding the scriptures of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was his second biggest achievement. So first is books and writing. Second is the discovery of the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his writings, including Chaitanya Charitamrita. So what did he do? He actually, because he was a magistrate, he had access to a lot of scriptures, a lot of library writings, ancient manuscripts. So he went through all of them, and he found in Bhakti Ratnakar, there was a statement that said, Navadvip Muddhe Mayapur Nam Sthane Jothaye Jonmilem Gaura Chandra Bhagavan. So he said that Navadvip Madhye, in the middle of Navadvip, Mayapur Name Sthane, that place is called Mayapur. Jothaye Jonmilen Gaura Chandra. Jothaye is there, Jonmilen. Mahaprabhu took birth. Now, you can imagine what is the center of a place. So he did his own fact finding, and he had some inclination that maybe it is about that. And as we all know, and this is again very popular, of how Bhaktivinod Thakur was sitting in his house, Rani Dharmashala, just on the terrace. And at night, I think it was 10 o'clock, he was sitting with his assistant, and he saw this divine vision. He saw this big, light. Suddenly at night, at 10 o'clock at night, he saw this light from far, just across the Ganga. And he saw it for some time. Then he looked at his assistant. He said, "Did you see some light?" He said, "Yes, even I could see something." And then after some time, the light went away. So next day, he thought that it might have been from the similar place. So next he actually went, and he found that that area where the light was coming from was a place called Bollal Dighi, which is just where we have the current Janmasthan. So he went there, and he was relatively sure that this is the place. But what happened is the Ganga had changed direction, changed course. So as per the scriptures, Ganga was going in a certain way, and that was the Janmasthan. But over a period of time, the Janmasthan came under Ganga, and now Ganga had changed course. So when he asked the local people, they didn't know, and they couldn't care less. They didn't, it didn't bother them whether it's for Janmasthan or not. So he thought he's got some confirmation from Shastra. He now wants confirmation from Sadhu and Guru. So he approached the Vaishnav Sarvabhauma at that point of time, Jagannath Das Babaji. And it is said, again, you all know the story of how he was 120 years old. It is said he was carried in a casket by Bihari, his assistant, and he was brought to that place. And as soon as he was brought to the place, it is said that he actually jumped out of the basket, fell on the ground, and started dancing. A person who couldn't even walk on his own, he started dancing with hands raised, and he said, "Ei to nimai janma bhumi, ei to nimai janma bhumi," and he started dancing. And when Bhaktivinod Thakur saw that, it was confirmed, this is the Janmasthan. So that is a credit that goes to Bhaktivinod Thakur. Not only that, once he found that this is the Janmasthan, he actually established a wonderful temple there that was eventually done and completed by his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the same temple that we can see today in Janmasthan, Mayapur. So I'm sure a lot of you, if not all of you, have have been to Mayapur and seen that place. So that particular temple is the gift that Bhaktivinod Thakur has given us. So that is his second achievement. And then there is another achievement, and the most important achievement that Bhaktivinod Thakur has, and that is innovation in preaching. Innovation in preaching the holy names, innovation in preaching the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and making it easy for people to understand and apply in their lives by a systematic preaching method. So as all of you know, some of you have been part of Namhats, whether here or all over the world. So this Namhat was actually established by whom? It was established by Nityananda Prabhu. But Bhaktivinod Thakur was the person who actually revived, and he made it into a very systematic organizational system. And there is a nice book called Godrum Kalpatavi that is being translated by His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj. And it's just a wonderful book. If you can lay your hands on, please do read. It's not a very thick book, but it's got all the details of how a Namahat should be conducted, and how everybody, doesn't matter who is capable of doing what, everybody can contribute something and basically take the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ahead. So he single-handedly established Namhats. Guess how many? More than 500 Namhats he established. Can you imagine? And we can't even establish one Namhat after having so much resources with us. So that is another major contribution of Bhaktivinod Thakur. Not only that, he's given us wonderful songbooks. You know, the songbook that we sing from. In fact, now, because the temple is taken up these measures of having the bhajan nights, devotees are being enlivened and they are coming more close to singing these bhajans. Otherwise, they were getting lost. Devotees didn't know. I mean, they knew the bhajans, but nobody sang them. And these bhajans are scriptures in themselves. So wonderful. There is this whole section on Sharanagati, on Gitavali. Then there is Dalale Gita. So it is just wonderful how much nectar Bhaktivinod Thakur put into these songs for us. And it is said that in the year 1893, he wrote 10 books in 1 year. He completed 10 books in 1 year. You can't even read one book in 1 year, a small book. He actually wrote them and published them, 10 of them. And it was his mission to fulfill what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had told, or he had given Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, there is a nice verse that says, Suno Suno Nityananda, Suno Haridas, Sarvatra Amar Agga Koriho Prakash, Proti Ghare Ghare Giya Koro Ei Bhikkha, Loho Krishna, Koho Krishna, Loho Krishna Shikha. So he says, Suno Suno Nityananda, and Nityananda Prabhu, and Suno Suno Haridas, oh Haridas Thakur. What do you do? Sarvatra Amar Agya Koriho Prakash. Go everywhere. Sarvatra, go everywhere. And Amar Agya, it is my instruction. Please spread my instruction everywhere. What do you need to do? What is my instruction? Prati ghare ghare giya. Go to every door, every house. Don't leave anybody. Go to every house. Prati ghare ghare giya. Koro ei bhikkha. So you knock the door and you beg. You beg. Beg what? Bolo Krishna. Please say the holy name. Bhajo Krishna. Please sing the glories of Krishna. And please follow the instructions of Krishna. And this whole verse in Chaitanya Bhagavat sums up the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the whole motive of Namahat. And it is anybody who follows this Namahat, anybody who follows the footsteps of Bhaktivinod Thakur, can imagine how pleased Bhaktivinod Thakur would be, how pleased Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given this benediction to all his devotees. Do you know that a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can deliver the whole universe? Of course, a devotee who is completely surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, completely Sharanagat. He can deliver the whole universe. And the way he delivers the whole universe, it is a universal truth. All of us here present, we do the same things that a pure devotee can do to deliver the whole universe. 3 things. You want to know how a devotee can deliver the whole universe? And the 3 things are things that we also do. All of us are doing. All of us have done in the past and would do in future also. 3 things. It is said, Padotale khande prithivir amangol, darshan matra sarbadik hoye sunirmal, bahu tule nachite, sorgero bigno nash, heno josh, heno nitto, heno tardas. So as devotees, when we do kirtan, what do? When we do kirtan, we raise our hands and we dance, right? So it is said, when we dance, we move our legs here and there. So it is said, Padotale khande. So in kirtan, when we dance, Padotale, Pado means feet, under the feet. Padotale khande, prithiviro amangol, whatever inauspiciousness is there in this world, in this earth, planet, they will go away simply by the dancing steps of a devotee. So that is Prithvi taken care of. Then, Darshan matre sarbadik hoye sunirmal. Just by glancing everywhere, when a devotee glances everywhere, what happens? Everything becomes auspicious. Third, Bahu tule nachite. So sometimes people say, why do you have to put your hands up and dance? Bahu tule nachite, sorgero bigno nash. So when the devotee puts his hands up and dances, even the problems or any miseries that may exist in Swargalok, that is also completely taken care of. That is nullified. So then it is said, Hano Josh. So such a devotee who can purify the earth, who can purify the heavenly kingdom, and who can purify all the 4 directions by his glance. Such a devotee is glorious. Hano Josh. Such a devotee is glorious in his dancing. Nritto. Hano Tardash. Such is my devotee. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. So when we are dancing in kirtan, raising our hands, we should imagine, of course, we might not have the potency to do that, but at least we know when we are dancing, we are at least assisting the big acharyas to do their mission. And it makes us feel very, very empowered and a part of this parampara, not just in name, but in thought and action as well. So the third point that we said is his preaching. So there are 3 things. What were the 3 things? First was books and writing. Second is discovery of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's holy place, or birthplace and his scriptures. And third, innovation in preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message. So we can remember that. Just 3 words. B, books and writings. D, discovery. And I, innovation in preaching. So B, D, I. And these are the 3 achievements of Bhaktivinod Thakur. Of course, one of the primary things that we understood, why did he have that vision? And he had the fearlessness is because of his firm faith in Srimad Bhagavatam. And again, this is a story that you all would know. In fact, Maharaj had a very nice story this morning about Bisha Kishan, which by itself is a class in itself. If you go into the details, it's just wonderful. But there's another story of Bhaktivinod Thakur when he was in Champaran. So when he was there, he heard that there is a Brahma Daitya, or a ghost, on a banyan tree. And in that area, there used to be a judge. So that ghost used to be in the tree, and there was a group of bandits in that area, some dacoits. So they used to do their activities, steal and plunder. And when they got arrested, they used to be taken to this judge. So that time, this bandit used to go to this ghost in the tree and tell that ghost to have an influence on the judge so that his judgment can be in the favor of the bandits, of the dacoits. And that's exactly what happened, or was happening over a period of time. So the people in that village, they were obviously very, very oppressed, and they didn't know what to do. So they approached Bhaktivinod Thakur, and they were petitioned him that, what can we do, Thakur, please do something. So he was contemplating what to do when he saw that there was a Brahman who came begging for alms. And Bhaktivinod Thakur told him, okay, do one thing. You take Srimad Bhagavatam, you go under that banyan tree, and you just read Bhagavatam. And I'll give you something. So in return for something, he told him to just read Bhagavatam. So this Brahmana, he went under the tree and started reading Bhagavatam. After 1 month of reading Bhagavatam, this banyan tree, suddenly came crashing down completely. And then people from that time onwards did not hear any such cases of that ghost coming back again, or the judge being influenced anymore. So we can see that so much faith Bhaktivinod Thakur had in the scriptures, especially in Srimad Bhagavatam, that he knew that it doesn't matter whether it's a material problem or it's a problem of like a subtle body problem or a material body problem or a gross body problem. All solutions lie in the instructions and the pastimes of Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. So these stories just help us develop that strong faith in scriptures. We also read Bhagavatam, but is our faith that strong? We also try to preach, but do we really preach in that mood of Bhaktivinod Thakur? So these are the questions we need to ask. At the end of the day, why do we need to do all this? We want to be engaged in the devotional service. We want to be engaged in Krishna's service to please him wherever he wants us to be. And to please Krishna, we need to please Krishna's empowered devotee, like Bhaktivinod Thakur. And Bhaktivinod Thakur writes in one of his very nice bhajans from Sharanagati, which many of you would have heard. Krishna she tomaro, Krishna dite paro, tomaro shakti ache, tomaro shakti ache. Ami to kangal Krishna Krishna boli, Ami to kangal Krishna Krishna boli, dhai tobo pache pache, dhai tobo pache pache. So he says, Krishna she tomar, that, oh Vaishnav Thakur, Krishna is yours. You have purchased Krishna. Krishna she tomar, because you have purchased Krishna, Krishna dite paro, you can give Krishna to others. Tomaro shakti ache, only you have the empowerment to give Krishna to others. So, Ami to kangal, I know that you have got Krishna, but I have got nothing. I'm a beggar. I've got nothing with me. Ami to kangal, I to kangalu. And because I know I've got nothing, Krishna, Krishna Boli, I'm crying out Krishna, Krishna, and I'm running after you. Why? So that please give Krishna to me. And this is the mood that Bhaktivinod Thakur, through this song in Sharanagati, of course, he's expressing it himself, but it is something that he is inspiring us to get into that mood. And one of the elements of surrender is having complete dependence on Krishna completely. So on that note, we should remember that whatever we are trying to endeavor is, we should understand that we should endeavor to please the Acharyas through our Guru, through Srila Prabhupada. And those three things that we mentioned, he wrote a lot of books. Now somebody might say, okay, then I should read all the books. Well, it is not possible to read all the books. In fact, how many of us have finished reading Srimad Bhagavatam? How many of us has finished reading Chaitanya Charitamrita? How many of us has finished reading Prabhupada Lilamrita? So although Bhaktivinod Thakur wrote more than 100 books, Prabhupada has given us the important ones. And if we just stick to what Prabhupada has given us and read his books, that is sufficient for our spiritual destination. But we should know that there are a lot of treasures that exist in our parampara. And he has given us the Janmasthan discovery of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so we should try and go there. It just happened a few hundred years back, and it is something that Bhaktivinod Thakur has discovered, not just to put it in the books, but for us to go and take the blessings from that particular place. So I'm sure a lot of you have been there. Those of you who haven't, definitely put it in your wish list. And I'm sure all devotees who have been there, they definitely, whenever they go to India, they would love to go to that place. And the third one, innovative preaching. So let us all, in our little own way, deliberate and think that what could we individually do to help Bhaktivinod Thakur and Srila Prabhupada in their mission. And that is the best way to beg for their mercy and make progress in our spiritual path. Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur ki jai. Shri Bhaktivinod Thakur's appearance day ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much.
Krishna, such a wonderful class, saying is glorifying the seven Goswami. And I was thinking, while you're glorifying seven Goswami, I think we should call Prabhupada the eighth Goswami, because he's following so closely, he's following so closely in the footsteps of Bhaktivinod Thakur, preaching, writing, so wonderful. Yes, today has been a very hectic day for you, I know, right from the morning. So thank you for giving your association in time. So tomorrow we also have programs. Krishna Chandra Prabhu, we are there. I want to highlight tomorrow's program. Krishna Chandra Prabhu is there.
If anybody wants to add something to that, please feel free, or any questions while Prabhu concludes.
Yes, sorry. Anybody got comments or questions regarding Bhaktivinod Thakur? Krishna Prabhu is on an overseas call, so he won't be able to.
Okay, Nitya Gopal Prabhu wants to, I think he wants to say something. He's raised his hand. Yes,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hi, Prabhuji.
Pranam. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. That was so nice to hear, so transcendental. Prabhuji, I just have one question. Have you come across in your research of Bhaktivinod Thakur Maharaj, how we know of his schedule, how it was so tight. And in that schedule, he allocated 3 hours for chanting the holy names. But it is also said that he chanted 64 rounds in a day. So have you come across whether he chanted the 64 rounds in 3 hours, or whether there was other hours in the day to complete the 64 rounds? Because obviously 3 hours would be quite difficult to do. I think it's just for 64 rounds. I don't know. If you can clarify, Prabhu, maybe.
Yeah, well, I'm not really, we all know he used to chant 64. In fact, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Prabhupada used to do that. But yes, in the schedule that we are told, and that's there in the 7 Goswami book, you're right, he chanted in the morning, early morning, but there is no subsequent description of his chanting in the middle of the day specifically, unless he, took some time off his that normal schedule and chanted extra rounds. So that's something I don't know, but I know when we had gone to Sukhada Sonanda Kunj in Godrumdeep, that after he retired from his service, he used to be in his bhajan kutir, and there's that small room which all of you know as you come up the steps on the left hand side, a small room which has no windows. So that is a room that he used to sit and just chant all morning, 64 rounds. So yeah, Prabhu, I don't know. So I know when he retired, he used to do them there. But while he was in his work as a magistrate, I'm sure he would have, kind of stolen time from here and there and finished his rounds. But that's not something that is being documented anywhere to say he had. I mean, presuming it will be at least 8 hours. We got the 3 hours that we accounted for. So there are 5 hours that he would have spent somewhere and chanted. But yeah, it's a question maybe you should ask some senior devotee.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Krishna Prabhuji.
Okay.
In Jagannath Puri, opposite, quite close to Bhaktivinod Thakur's Samadhi, there is a ISKCON temple now, and they have a deity of Bhaktivinod Thakur. So it is his original, I think, bhajan kutir was somewhere near there. That's where, do you know anything about that? Or
In Puri, Prabhu?
Yeah, Jagannath Puri.
Yeah, while he was there, I know he used to be living in that Jagannath Vallabh garden, which is just from the Puri temple slightly ahead. Subsequently, whether he had another kutir or not, I don't know. But I know his main bhajan kutir was in Godrumdeep, and when he started the Namahat, and after a few years of starting that Namahat, he had this desire to completely absorb himself in preaching, full-time preaching, and he wanted to leave his service. But he was so dedicated. He was such a most important worker for the British in a responsible position. The British wouldn't let him resign. So they gave him 2 years break, like a sabbatical, as people call it now. And that's when he intensified his preaching, and he was in his bhajan kutir at that point. And then after a few years of service, he actually quit his place. So as we understand, or we are told, the bhajan kutir is the Sukhada Sonanda Kunj in Godrumdeep, under that, close to that banyan tree, the Surabhi Kunj. And slightly ahead of that is his ancestral home in the same island. But he had a place in Puri as well. And I think Jagannath Vallabh Garden is where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was born.
Anybody else got any comments or questions? Please come through. We also have Krishna Prabhu now finishes overseas call. Maybe he can tell us about tomorrow and Tuesday's program. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Nitya Das here. I've just got some photos of the Bhajana Kutir that we were just talking about from my visit 2 years ago, if you would like to see. I've got about 10 or 15 pictures.
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead. You can share it. And
I can share it? Okay, if I can do a screen share, that would be helpful.
Kadampana Prabhu, can you make Prabhuji a co-host? So
yeah, Prabhu,
I can?
Yeah, any of the participants can screen
All
share.
right, I'll do that now. Share screen. It says host has disabled screen sharing. Could you please double check?
Okay, I'll just.
So Krishna Prabhuji, as we go through the pictures, if you pick up any points from your visit, please feel free to share.
Sure, Prabhu.
Okay. All right. So here we are.
Prabhu, you are co-host now. You can share your
I'm
screen.
trying.
All right. Is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is outside the Bhaktivinod Thakur's Bhajan Kutir.
Correct.
And there's two photos, one on the left and one on the right. As you can see, that's Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur's Vigraha.
Battery down.
Yeah.
And you can see Srila, I think on the right hand side is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then if you zoom in here, yeah, you can see Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur Samadhi.
Correct.
Going on to the next one. Okay, so this is his worshipable deities, Gaura Gadadhar. There.
Wonderful.
And this is basically on the ground floor. There is another photo which we will see down the line.
Yeah, that's Samadhi.
Yes.
Yeah, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji.
Gaur Kishore Babaji Maharaj Samadhi. That's on the right hand side is the courtyard.
Yes.
And there is something said about this tree which is very special, which I've forgotten now. If somebody recollects, they can share about this tree in the courtyard.
That's his desk.
And this was one of the portraits inside Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur's room. But the guide who took me there couldn't tell me what this was all about.
This is Varahadev.
Varahadev?
Yeah.
Yes.
Varahadev.
This is Lakshmi Narsingha from Bath Palace, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Bath Palace. They have the same deed in their picture.
Is it Nishingade Prabhu or?
Yeah, Lakshmi Narsingha.
Okay.
This is deities from, you go to Bath Palace, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Bath Palace. They have
Yoga
a temple
Pit.
there. Gaur Gadadhar temple. They have now a new temple there.
Okay. And on the right hand side, we see Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur's room. You can see his table there. That's his original table, and that's the actual room.
And that's the bookshelf on the right.
That's the bookshelf. Yeah.
And just behind this room is his place where he used to chant his 64 rounds.
Correct, and that's coming up as well. Okay, so that's another view of the room. You can see his bed over there on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, the door that you see, that is a door that takes you to the veranda, from where he actually saw across the Ganges, the birthplace.
Right.
See, you can see the note on the top of the door. Let me zoom in there.
Correct. Yes.
You can see there. Bhaktivinod saw Lord Chaitanya's birthplace from here.
Right.
I'll go to the next slide. So that's the portrait in Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur's room at the moment. And on the right-hand side, interesting. Can anybody guess what this could be?
It's a fan.
That's the fan at the time.
That runs on kerosene.
Yes. Amazing, isn't it? I don't know if you can read this, Prabhuji. Are you able to read?
Yeah, Srila Bhaktivinod Thakurer. I don't know what, kerosene toile cholito boidyutik pakha. Kerosene toile means kerosene mein chalne wala electric fan.
Hari bol, kerosene and electric. Okay, let me go to the next one. Okay, now this is on the left-hand side. You see the room. which is next to Bhaktivinod Thakur's room, and this is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's room. So you can see his writing table, and that is his chair. So that's the room next to Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur's room, and this is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's room. And on the right-hand side is the actual veranda from where he saw the yoga pit. And that's the door that we saw from his room. We saw the internal view looking out. See, that's another view of the veranda on the left. And on the right-hand side, as Suhrit Krishna Prabhuji mentioned, is his actual bhajana kutir, where he did his rounds on the right-hand side. It's a very small room. It's only like about maybe 2.5 meters by 1 meter.
Yeah.
So he had a small little altar and he used to sit on the floor. And on the front of this room is actually a door. So he goes inside, the door is closed. I took this photo, the door was locked, and I've taken this photo through a little opening in the door. So it's pretty small. Only one person can sit literally on the floor. Scrolling on to the next one. And on the right-hand side, I think that's the stairs going down.
Yes, yes.
Because this Bhajana Kutir on the left is on the first floor, and his two rooms are on the first floor.
Correct. And that small door, Prabhu, is that door going to that bhajan area.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, correct.
And that's the view from the outside, as you can see. The courtyard, big courtyard with the tree on the right-hand side. And on the top left, that's the veranda on the top, from where the yoga pit was sited. And you can see the altar of Gaura Gadadhar on the right-hand side on the ground floor.
Correct.
So yeah, that's about it, Prabhuji. So I'll just share that.
And on the left-hand side is the temple of Surabhi.
Correct. On the left-hand side where the gentleman is bowing down, he's actually bowing to the Surabhi temple. Unfortunately, I thought I had a photo of that one, but I couldn't find it in time.
Yeah, they recently did that.
Actually, I think I might. Yes, actually, I have that. One second, I've got it. Just bear with me for a moment, please, while I transfer this.
This place is called Surabhi Kunj as well in Godrumdeep.
Yes, okay, I've got that. I'll redo the screen share. This one here. Okay, there we go.
Right, yes. Right side, Surabhi.
You can see the Surabhi cow there.
Yes. Correct.
And on the left-hand side, we have Shivling.
Yes.
Prabhuji, what is the story behind this?
This Shiv was there. Sivagi Prabhu, you know the history behind that? I know this deity was, this Shiv was here, just like there is a Shiv in the Janmasthan guarding the Dham.
Okay.
But I'm sure there's something more to it. I don't recollect now.
I also forgot. We'll find out. All right. Thank you, Hare Krishna. That's all I had to share.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. It just brought back memories. Excellent.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, there's one person who's raised his hand. I want to ask something, to share something. Sanivas Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanavad Pranam.
Hello.
Prabhuji, I want to ask, I joined a little bit later as well, but I don't know whether you covered it or not. What is the inspiration of Bhaktivinod Thakur being a family person, coming into the movement and taking all this one? It's like we know that how Srila Prabhupada met Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, and he was inspired by Guru Maharaj to take the mission further. So is there any connection how Bhakti Vinod Thakur came into the movement and was inspired to take the movement because he was a family person. Is he from a childhood he was involved in the movement, or what made him to get to the point of determined thing to dedicate his life for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Is there anything in that point was given?
Well, Bhaktivinod Thakur was not inspired by any movement. He actually founded the movement.
Yes, yeah. But what made him to inspire to take that thing?
Yeah. So that's why if we see we have to understand the activities and life of acharyas through acharyas itself, through devotees. Otherwise, if we read the initial part of his life, it will just feel like an ordinary materialist's life, like he had, like his health was quite bad in his childhood and he had his ups and downs and the usual bits and parts. But as I think I just mentioned, that somehow or the other he had this inclination to be attracted to religious functions from his childhood, and he was always attracted to writing, reading, and understanding different philosophies. I didn't cover that, but I'm sure all of you know he had studied the Quran, he had studied the Bible, right? And he had also studied all the different philosophies, even the deviant philosophies at that point of time in Bengal. One of the notable ones was Brahmo Samaj, which was started by Ram Mohan Rai. People who have studied a bit of Indian history will understand. So he was somebody who was interested in everything, in all the philosophies. But when he studied them, he had this inner hunger to find all his answers, to find peace and solace in the instructions that actually appeal to him. But none of these philosophies actually appealed to his soul. He understood them and he presented them wonderfully like a great orator, but it didn't connect with him. But as soon as the Zamindar in Dinajpur, he gave him the copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavatam, he just connected. So the connection of Bhaktivinod Thakur was through Bhagavatam, was through Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that's where, how until the wires are all connected, until it's connected, however you press the switch, nothing happens. But so as soon as he got Bhagavatam, he got connected. And then it was just, the whole lights were illuminated. And that's when his whole journey progressed towards fulfilling the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he founded that movement. He founded Namhat. He founded the real Krishna consciousness movement. And somebody asked Prabhupada that Bhaktivinod Thakur founded and did so much. Why did he not complete? So Prabhupada Maharaj also was sharing this morning. So Prabhupada said, well, he did not complete so that we all can complete on his behalf. So Prabhupada also has left a lot of things that he could have easily done. But why did he leave behind? So that he can give us some service to do. Because if Prabhupada would have done everything, what will we do? Right? So we should take it as, an opportunity to serve, glorify, and please our previous acharyas. Thank you very much. Okay, any other thoughts? Okay, thank you very much. Santosh Prabhu, I'll hand over back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suhrit Krishna Prabhu. Such a wonderful class and so much detail about Bhaktivinod Thakur. Very nice glorification. So we'd like to request His Grace Krishna Prabhu to come on board and just brief us about the program for tomorrow, and especially for Tuesday 21st, big program coming up. Prabhu, you online now or?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, everyone. Once again, Suhrit Krishna Prabhu and Nityapada Prabhu for taking us back to Sri Mayapur Dham. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. For tomorrow, as we know, we will be celebrating the disappearance day of Srila Haridas Thakur, and His Grace Kala Samvara Prabhu will be giving class again, same channel, same time. So please tune in for that. And on Tuesday, as we all know, that we will be celebrating the Bhadra Purnima festival. And we know the glory is that on the day, either one receives or distributes Srimad Bhagavatam set to anyone, this is granted in Canto 12, Chapter 13, Text 13, that they can make their way back to Godhead. So we are encouraging everyone to please come forward. There will be a special yajna happening tomorrow in Naimisharanya, and where we will be giving the names of all the participants or sponsors who have sponsored Srimad Bhagavatam set. And on Tuesday, there will be a special program because Tuesday we will be celebrating here in New Zealand. So 6:30, the program starts at the temple with the yajna, followed by 7 o'clock Aarti, and then 7:30, His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj will give class on the importance of Bhadra Purnima. For us, I think our target was to do 53 sets. And if I'm right, we have done around 62 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam distribution. And all glories to everyone who came forward. But again, the window is still open. If anybody would like to buy their ticket to Back to Godhead, you're most welcome to purchase the ticket. It's just sponsoring Srimad Bhagavatam set either to yourself or to sponsor and give it to someone whom you can rely that they're going to read and they make their life a success. It's a valuable gift, and I'm encouraging everyone actually to do so. So please come forward. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Krishna Prabhuji. So we'll now leave to Radheshyam. So organize the Nashinga prayer. Radhe, we sing Nashinga prayer.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone, once again. Okay, so it's going back to Suhrit Krishna Prabhu's family. They are chanting Nashinga prayer now.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.